The massive crystal dome of the Valerian Council chamber filled with nervous sounds as hundreds of alien leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. Admiral Kextra's 6 arms moved quickly across the holographic display, showing red dots where entire star systems used to exist. Each red dot meant billions of lives lost. 14 systems in 6 months, Kextra announced, his voice shaking. The room fell silent. Even the usually chattering Velmuth stopped, their wing buzzing. The Void Hunters are moving faster than we predicted. Counselor Velton, whose crystal body normally glowed bright blue and happy, now looked dull and gray. His people were known across the galaxy for solving problems with words, not weapons. They had built a peaceful empire that lasted for thousands of years. But peace meant nothing to the Void Hunters. Our diplomats tried to negotiate, Velton said sadly. The Void Hunters consumed them, along with everything else on the planet. Our defense fleets lasted maybe an hour before being destroyed. We need help, and we need it fast. The xenobiology team leader, Dr. Zixera, stepped forward carrying a datapad. 4 weeks, her team had been studying radio signals from different worlds, looking for potential allies. Most civilized species were too peaceful to help, but then they found something interesting. We discovered a small blue planet. In the outer rim, she explained. The inhabitants call it Earth. At first we thought they might be suitable allies, but after studying their transmissions, we realized something terrifying. She activated a holographic display, showing images from Earth's television and movies. Explosions filled the air. Humans fought against monsters, aliens, and each other. Their entertainment was full of violence and war. They create stories about fighting for fun, Dr. Zixera continued. Their history books describe thousands of years of constant warfare. They have weapons designed to destroy entire planets. And their biology. They are pursuit predators. They literally evolved to chase down and kill other living beings. The council members looked at each other nervously. Some species started backing toward the exits. But that's exactly what we need, Admiral Kextra said firmly. Every peaceful method has failed. The Void Hunters don't understand mercy or negotiation. They only understand one thing: being hunted by something more dangerous than they are. Counselor Velton's crystal body flickered between blue and gray as he struggled with the decision. His people had never hired killers before. It went against everything they believed in. Are you sure about this? He asked. What if the humans decide we're their next target after dealing with the Void Hunters? Dr. Zixera pulled up more data. Our analysis shows they have strong protective instincts for smaller, weaker beings. Many of their stories involve protecting innocents from threats. If we approach them correctly, they might see us as something worth protecting rather than conquering. The chamber buzzed with worried conversations in dozens of alien languages. Some council members argued this was their only choice. Others worried they were inviting a worse monster into their home. Finally, Admiral Kextra raised all 6 arms for silence. The Void Hunters will reach our homeworld in 3 months. We can die as peaceful beings, or we can live by hiring the galaxy's most dangerous predators to protect us. The vote was close, but fear of extinction won over fear of humans. Send the transmission to Earth, Kextra ordered. Tell them we need their help. Offer them whatever technology they want in exchange. And pray to whatever gods exist that we're not making the biggest mistake in galactic history. Captain Minho stared at the strange symbols flickering across his computer screen inside the UES Determinations Command Center. The alien message had arrived 3 weeks ago, and he still couldn't believe what it said. Real aliens were asking Earth for help, offering technology that could change humanity forever. Play it again, he told Lieutenant Soyoung, who sat at the communications station nearby. The translator program converted the alien sounds into English. The voice sounded scared and desperate. People of Earth, we are the Valerian Empire. We faced total destruction from an enemy called the Void Hunters. We have studied your species and believe you possess the military capabilities we need. In exchange for your assistance, we offer advanced technology, including faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, and medical advances that could extend human life by centuries. Lieutenant Soyoung looked up from her console. Sir, I've run every test possible on this transmission. The mathematics check out, the physics are consistent, and the signal definitely came from outside our solar system. This isn't a hoax. Minho rubbed his tired eyes. 3 weeks ago, he was just another Navy captain running training exercises in the Pacific. Now he was commanding humanity's first starship, heading into deep space to meet real aliens. The whole situation felt like something from a science fiction movie. What do you think they really want from us? Soyoung asked quietly. Before Minho could answer, Major Jamin walked onto the bridge. The tough military officer had been studying alien combat footage for days, trying to understand what they would face out there. Captain, I've finished analyzing the data they sent us about these Void Hunters, Jamin reported. These things are serious bad news. They've destroyed 14 star systems in 6 months. Billions of aliens are dead. Dr. Hygen, the mission's chief scientist, entered carrying a tablet full of notes. The technology they're offering is incredible, she said excitedly. Their medical files show treatments for cancer, heart disease, even aging itself. Their energy systems could solve Earth's climate problems overnight. But why us? Minho wondered aloud. There must be thousands of alien species out there. Why ask humans for help? Diplomat Nari, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. I've been thinking about that too. Maybe we have something they don't. Like what? Jamin asked. Nari pulled up some files on her tablet. I've been reading about human military history. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've gotten very good at it. Maybe these aliens are too peaceful to fight effectively. The bridge fell silent as everyone considered this. Earth's history was full of violence and conflict, but maybe that experience could save innocent alien lives. The UN Security Council voted unanimously to approve this mission, Minho said finally. Every major nation on Earth agrees this is worth the risk. If we can help these aliens and get advanced technology in return, we have to try. Lieutenant Soyoung checked her instruments. Captain, we're approaching the jump point. FTL drive is ready for activation. Minho took a deep breath. Humanity was about to take its first step into the wider galaxy. None of them knew that aliens saw humans as the most dangerous predators in space. They thought they were going on a rescue mission, not realizing they were about to become the galaxy's new protectors. All stations report ready, Minho announced. Engage FTL drive. Let's go meet our first aliens. The stars stretched into lines of light as the Determination jumped into hyperspace, carrying Earth's hope toward an uncertain future among the stars. Deep Space Station Nexus floated quietly between star systems, a massive spinning wheel of metal, and lights that served as neutral ground for different alien species. Captain Minho had never seen anything so incredible. The station was 10 times bigger than any structure humans had ever built, with ships from dozens of different worlds docked along its outer ring. Stay alert but friendly, Minho whispered to his team as they walked through the station's corridors. Alien beings of all shapes and sizes moved around them. Some looked like giant insects, others resembled walking trees, and a few seemed to be made of living crystal. Admiral Kextra waited for them in Conference Room 7. Minho tried not to stare, but the alien leader was unlike anything he had imagined. Kextra stood 8 feet tall with 6 arms, covered in bright blue feathers that seemed to change color based on his emotions. His large black eyes never blinked as he watched the humans enter. "Welcome, people of Earth," Kextra said through a translation device that made his voice sound oddly musical. "Thank you for coming so far to meet with us." Diplomat Nari stepped forward and bowed slightly. We're honored to be here, Admiral. Your message said you needed our help. Kextra's feathers shifted to a darker shade of blue. Yes, we are desperate. Please, sit, and I will show you what we face. The room's lights dimmed as a holographic display appeared in the center of the table. Images of beautiful planets filled the air, cities of crystal and light, forests of silver trees, oceans that sparkled like jewels. These worlds were part of our empire, Kextra explained sadly, home to billions of peaceful beings who had never known war. The images changed, showing the same planets as lifeless rocks. No cities, no forests, no oceans. Just empty, dead, stone floating in space. The Void Hunters did this, Kextra continued. They consume everything, plants, animals, even the soil and water. They strip planets completely bare and move on to the next system. Dr. Hygen gasped softly. How is that even possible? They are like a plague of locusts, but infinitely worse, Kextra said. Our scientists estimate they have consumed over 300 worlds in the past century. Major Jameen leaned forward, studying the images carefully. How do they attack? What kind of ships do they use? Kextra noticed how the human soldiers' eyes were constantly moving, checking exits and looking for potential threats even in this safe meeting room. They travel in massive swarms, thousands of bioships that can repair themselves and reproduce during battle. Bioships? Nari asked, with interest instead of fear. So they're living creatures? Yes, grown rather than built. They follow the commands of larger hive-mind creatures that coordinate their attacks. Nari pulled out a tablet and started taking notes. What's their command structure? How do they communicate? Do they have supply lines or forward bases? Admiral. Kextra's feathers ruffled nervously. The human diplomat was asking questions about warfare, like she was planning a business meeting. His xenobiology team had warned him that humans thought differently about conflict than other civilized species. We have never studied such things, Kextra admitted. Our people seek peaceful solutions. We tried to negotiate with them, but they consumed our diplomats, along with everything else. Captain Minho spoke up. Admiral, we're willing to help, but we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Can you show us their attack patterns? As Kextra displayed more tactical information, he watched the humans' reactions carefully. They didn't show fear or disgust like other species would. Instead, they asked practical questions about weapons, strategies, and weaknesses. They were already thinking like hunters, planning to stalk dangerous prey. Maybe his people had made the right choice after all. These humans might actually be crazy enough to fight the unstoppable Void Hunters and win. The laboratory aboard Deep Space Station. Nexus felt cold and sterile as Dr. Hygen carefully examined the Void Hunter specimens under a powerful microscope. The alien tissue samples had been recovered from a recent battlefield, and they told a disturbing story about what humanity was facing. This is unlike anything I've ever seen, she muttered, adjusting the microscope's focus. The tissue didn't look like normal biological matter. Instead, it resembled a hybrid between living cells and advanced machinery. Captain Minho entered the lab, with Major Jameen close behind. Both men looked tired after spending hours reviewing combat footage from the Valerian archives. What have you learned? Dr. Minho asked. Dr. Hygen looked up from her work, excitement mixed with concern on her face. These creatures have no individual identity. Each cell is connected to every other cell through some kind of biological network. They literally share a single mind across thousands of different bodies, like a beehive, Jamin asked. More advanced than that, Hygen explained. Bees can work independently when needed. These things cannot. Remove them from the collective mind, and they die within minutes. They've evolved past individual consciousness completely. Major Jamin pulled up tactical displays on his tablet that explains their attack patterns. I've been studying their battles with Valerian forces. They coordinate perfectly. No communication. Delays. No confusion. No individual mistakes. Captain Minho studied the combat footage over Jamin's shoulder. Swarms of dark bioships moved through space like schools of fish, turning and attacking in perfect synchronization. No human military force had ever achieved that level of coordination. How do we fight something like this? Minho wondered aloud. That's the problem, Jamin replied grimly. Look at these numbers. They destroyed the entire Kepler defense fleet in 43 minutes. 15,000 ships reduced to scrap metal. The Valerians had superior technology, better positioning, even numerical advantage in that battle. Dr. Hedgen pointed to cellular diagrams on her computer screen. The individual creatures are incredibly efficient. They don't waste energy on things like fear, hesitation, or self-preservation. Every action is calculated for maximum benefit to the collective. Admiral Kekstra entered the laboratory with several other Valerian officers. His feathers were pale with worry as he approached the human team. Have you discovered a weakness? He asked hopefully. Major Jamin shook his head. Admiral, your people have been fighting these things all wrong. You've been trying to win battles against them. Of course, Kekstra replied, confused. How else? Would we stop them? Captain Minho stepped forward. Major Jamin is right. These aren't soldiers we're fighting. They're more like a force of nature. A hurricane, a wildfire, an earthquake. You don't defeat a hurricane by fighting it, Dr. Hygen added. You redirect it, avoid it, or wait for it to run out of energy. The Valerian officers looked at each other nervously. This human way of thinking was completely foreign to their understanding of conflict resolution. But how do you redirect something that wants to consume everything? Admiral Kekstra asked. Major Jamin smiled for the first time since arriving at the station. Doctor, you said they need constant connection to their hive mind to survive, right? That's correct. Individual units die quickly when separated from the collective. Then we don't try to kill them, Jamin explained. We disrupt their communications. Cut off parts of the swarm from the main hive mind. Captain Minho nodded approvingly. Like cutting off fingers from a hand. The hand might still work, but it becomes much less effective. The Valerian observers exchanged worried glances, finally beginning to understand why their xenobiologists had been so terrified of humans. These creatures didn't just think about warfare. They approached it like a science. Admiral Kekstra watched in fascination and horror as the human soldiers went through their daily training routine in the station's gymnasium. The humans moved with deadly precision, practicing combat techniques that looked more like an elaborate dance of violence. Lieutenant Soyoung noticed the alien admiral staring and walked over with a friendly smile. Impressive, aren't they? Major Jamin insists we keep up our training even in space. Your people still engage in physical combat for ... entertainment? Kekstra asked, his feathers shifting to a confused purple color. Soyoung laughed. Some of us do martial arts, others prefer strategy games. Captain Minho plays chess every morning. Dr. Hygen actually won our ship's poker tournament last week. Poker. Kekstra had never heard of such a thing. It's a card game where you try to outsmart your opponents while hiding your true intentions, Soyoung explained. The best players can read tiny facial expressions and body language to figure out what cards someone is holding. Admiral Kekstra's large black eyes blinked slowly. His people had developed technology that allowed direct mind-to-mind communication thousands of years ago. The idea of deliberately hiding thoughts from others was completely foreign to Valerian culture. Major Jamin approached them, wiping sweat from his forehead after his workout. Admiral, I wanted to discuss our strategic planning session with your military advisors. Of course. What did you think of our defensive strategies? Jamin chose his words carefully. Your people have developed impressive technologies, but your tactical thinking needs work. Several Valerian military officers had gathered nearby, their feathers rustling with mild offense. What do you mean? asked General Tixara, the highest-ranking Valerian military leader. You think like prey animals, Jamin explained gently. When faced with a threat, your first instinct is to build bigger shields, create stronger defenses, or retreat to safer positions. Those are logical responses, General Tixara replied defensively. For prey animals, yes, Jamin agreed. But humans evolved as persistence hunters. When we see a threat, our first instinct is to study it, track it, and figure out how to take it down. Captain Minho joined the conversation. Admiral, can I ask you something? In your military academy, do they teach officers about acceptable losses? Kextra looked confused. Acceptable losses. Sometimes in battle, you have to sacrifice something small to achieve something bigger, Minho explained. You might lose a few ships to save an entire planet. The Valerian officers looked horrified. We would never deliberately sacrifice our people, General Tixara said firmly. That's exactly the problem, Major Jamin replied. The Void Hunters don't care about individual losses, because they're all connected to one mind. They'll sacrifice thousands of units without hesitation if it helps them win. Dr. Hyjin walked over from her research station, carrying a tablet full of data. I've been studying human military history compared to other galactic species. Most civilized races stopped fighting wars when they developed advanced technology. They learned to solve problems through diplomacy and cooperation. But humans kept fighting, Lieutenant Soyoung added, even after we developed nuclear weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We kept studying warfare and improving our tactics. That sounds terrifying, Admiral Kextra admitted. Captain Minho shook his head. It's not about being violent. It's about being prepared. My grandfather used to say, if you want peace, prepare for war. We study conflict so we can end conflicts quickly and with minimal suffering. Major Jamin pulled up a holographic display showing ancient human battles. Look at this battle from Earth's history. A small army defeated a much larger enemy force by using the terrain against them. They turned the enemy's size into a disadvantage. We call it asymmetric warfare, Dr. Hyjin explained. Fighting smarter instead of fighting harder. The Valerian officers studied the display with growing understanding. These humans didn't just think about fighting, they had spent thousands of years perfecting it. So when you face the Void Hunters, Admiral Kextra said slowly, you won't try to outgun them or outrun them. Exactly, Captain Minho replied. We'll outthink them. The Kepler 442 system looked like a graveyard when the human fleet arrived. 3 planets that once hosted thriving alien cities were now nothing but bare rock floating in space. The 4th planet was half-stripped, with massive Void Hunter bioships swarming around it like hungry locusts. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the UES Determination, watching the destruction through the main view screen. Hundreds of dark, organic-looking ships moved in perfect formation around the dying planet. Each ship was the size of a city block, pulsing with an eerie purple light. My God, whispered Lieutenant Soyoung from her communications station. There must be thousands of them. Major Jamin studied the tactical display, counting enemy positions. The Valerian intelligence reports were accurate. Estimated fleet strength, 4,000 bioships, plus countless smaller support vessels. Dr. Hyjin looked up from her science station. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the planet's surface. They're literally eating the ground itself. Any normal military commander would have taken one look at those overwhelming numbers and retreated immediately. The human fleet consisted of only 12 ships, the UES Determination, and 11 smaller escort vessels borrowed from the Valerian Navy. But Captain Minho wasn't thinking like a normal commander. All ships, maintain stealth mode, he ordered. Quietly. Major Jamin, deploy strike teams Alpha through Delta. Target the small stuff first. Sir. Lieutenant Soyoung looked confused. Shouldn't we be attacking their main fleet? That's what they expect, Minho replied with a slight smile. Every enemy the Void Hunters have faced tried to fight their main force head-on. That's why everyone lost. On her reconnaissance vessel, hidden behind the system's largest moon, Lieutenant So-young coordinated the attack. Her ship was equipped with advanced Valerian stealth technology that made it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. Strike Team Alpha, you have 3 resource gatherers at coordinates 77 Mark IV, she reported quietly. Small escort, minimal defenses. Major Jamin's voice came through the comm from his assault ship. Copy that. Moving to intercept. The first attacks were swift and surgical. Human strike teams hit isolated Void Hunter vessels that were collecting raw materials from asteroid fields. These ships were defenseless, designed only for harvesting, not fighting. Target destroyed, reported Strike Team Beta. They didn't even try to fight back. Same here, added Strike Team Charlie. It's like they didn't know we were coming until we started shooting. Dr. Hygiene monitored the enemy fleet's reaction from her science station. Fascinating. The main swarm isn't changing course or sending reinforcements. They're just continuing their consumption pattern. Captain Minho nodded. Grimly. Hit the communication relays, next. Those organic-looking towers they've set up on the planet's surface. But, sir, Lieutenant So-young asked, won't destroying their communications make them angry? It'll make them confused, Minho corrected. Dr. Hygiene, explain what happens when you disrupt a hive mind's communication network. Individual units become isolated from the collective intelligence, Dr. Hygiene replied. They can still function, but they lose the ability to coordinate complex actions. Over the next 6 hours, human strike teams systematically destroyed communication hubs, supply ships, and scout vessels. They avoided the main Void Hunter fleet entirely, instead targeting the support network that kept the invasion running. Status report, Captain Minho, requested. Major Jamin's voice crackled over the comm. We've eliminated 43% of their resource gathering capability and 71% of their long-range communications. And their response. That's the strange part, sir. They're still following the exact same attack pattern. They haven't adapted to our presence at all. Back at Deep Space Station Nexus, Admiral Kextra watched the battle unfold through long-range sensors. His feathers had turned bright yellow with amazement. Incredible, he whispered to his staff. The humans are actually making the Void Hunters look clumsy. For the first time in galactic history, the unstoppable Void Hunters were being hunted themselves. The breakthrough happened during the second week of fighting in the Kepler 442 system. Major Jamin was leading Strike Team Alpha against a group of Void Hunter escort vessels when his human pilots ran into trouble. The enemy had finally started adapting to their hit-and-run tactics. We're taking heavy fire, reported pilot Chin Wu from his fighter craft. They've repositioned their defensive screen. Can't get through. That's when Commander Veltani of the Valerian Navy made a suggestion that would change everything. Major, our ships have superior shields and sensors. What if we work together? Jamin had been trained to work with multinational forces on Earth, but coordinating with aliens was completely different. Valerian ships were larger and slower than human fighters, but their technology was centuries ahead of anything Earth had developed. All right, Commander, Jamin replied over the comm. What do you have in mind? Your fighters are fast and unpredictable. Our ships have powerful shields and long-range weapons. If we combine our strengths, within minutes, they had developed a new tactical approach. Valerian cruisers would advance openly, drawing enemy fire with their strong defensive systems. Meanwhile, human fighters would use the distraction to attack from unexpected angles. Captain Minho watched the first joint operation from the bridge of the Determination. All units, form up in Delta formation, he commanded. Valerians take high guard position. Humans sweep low. The mixed squadron moved, toward a cluster of Void Hunter bioships that were stripping minerals from an asteroid field. The alien vessels immediately focused their weapons on the larger Valerian ships, just as the humans had predicted. Now, Jamin whispered into his comm. Human fighters dove beneath the enemy formation, while Valerian ships kept them distracted. From above, within seconds, the Void Hunter escorts were caught in a deadly crossfire. Lieutenant Soyoung monitored the battle from her stealth reconnaissance ship. "Sir, enemy formation is breaking apart. They're trying to reposition to deal with both attack vectors." "Perfect," Minho replied. "All units switch patterns. Valerians go low, humans take high position." The mixed squadron flowed like water, constantly changing their attack formation. Every time the Void Hunters adapted to one pattern, the human alien team would shift to something completely different. Dr. Haijin studied the tactical data from her science station. "Captain, this is remarkable. The enemy hive mind is designed to process and respond to threats, but it takes them several minutes to analyze a new pattern and coordinate a response. And we're switching patterns every 30 seconds, Min noted with satisfaction. Word of the new tactics spread quickly through the galactic communication networks. Other alien species that had been watching the battle with nervous hope suddenly began paying closer attention. On the bridge of a crystalline Federation battleship, Admiral Zexmora studied the human techniques with growing excitement. "Look how they move," she said to her officers. "They don't maintain rigid formations like we do. It's completely chaotic," replied her tactical officer. "No, it's not chaotic at all," Zexmora corrected. "It's adaptive. They're fighting like a pack of hunters surrounding prey." Back in the Kepler system, the results were becoming clear. Major Jamin's mixed squadrons had destroyed over 200 Void Hunter vessels in 3 days. More importantly, they had done it without losing a single ship. "Enemy advance has completely stopped," reported Lieutenant Soyoung from her monitoring position. "The main Void Hunter fleet is holding position around the 4th planet." Captain Minho smiled grimly. For the first time in centuries, they don't know what to do next. The unstoppable Void Hunters had finally met their match. Human creativity combined with alien technology, working together as a unified pack. The Void Hunter, Mother Hive, was unlike anything Captain Minho had ever seen. Floating in the center of the enemy fleet, it looked like a massive living city made of dark organic material. Twisted spires and pulsing chambers covered its surface, connected by arteries that glowed with purple energy. The thing was easily 50 kilometers across, and constantly growing as smaller bioships merged with its structure. "That's our target," Minho announced to his infiltration team aboard the stealth transport Silent Arrow. The ship had been modified with the best Valerian cloaking technology available, but getting close to the Mother Hive would still be incredibly dangerous. Major Jamin checked his weapons one final time. "Sir, are we sure about this plan? Walking into the brain of a hive mind seems like suicide." "It would be suicide for any normal military operation," Minho agreed. "But we're not here to fight. We're here to talk." Diplomat Nari looked nervous, but determined. She carried a specially designed translation device created by combining human psychology research with Valerian technology. If their theory was correct, it might allow her to communicate directly with the Void Hunter collective consciousness. Dr. Haijin monitored their approach from her science station. "Remember everyone, these creatures aren't monsters. They're following a biological drive to consume and reproduce. It's like trying to negotiate with a hurricane, but hurricanes don't have intelligence." The Silent Arrow slipped through the enemy fleet undetected, moving carefully between massive bioships that drifted like sleeping whales. Lieutenant Soyoung piloted the vessel with incredible precision, avoiding sensor sweeps and patrol routes. "There," she whispered, pointing to a large opening in the Mother Hive's side. "That looks like a docking bay. More like a mouth." "Jamin," muttered. The transport ship glided into the organic tunnel, its hull scraping against walls that felt uncomfortably warm and alive. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed along the tunnel walls, creating an eerie light that made everyone's skin look green. After what felt like hours, they reached a vast internal chamber. The space was filled with floating nerve-like structures that sparked with electrical activity. In the center stood something that looked like a massive brain made of crystalline material, surrounded by thousands of tendril-like connections. "That's it," Dr. Hyjin breathed. The central nervous system of the entire collective. Captain Minho led his small team toward the neural center, their boots making soft, squelching sounds on the organic floor. Strange creatures scuttled in the shadows, worker drones that maintained the hive but paid no attention to the human intruders. "They don't see us as a threat," Nari observed. "We're too small to register as dangerous to something this massive." When they reached the crystalline brain structure, Nari carefully activated her translation device. The machine hummed to life, analyzing the electrical patterns flowing through the neural network. "Contact established," she announced quietly. I'm hearing voices. Millions of them, all speaking at once." The collective consciousness noticed their presence immediately. The chamber filled with a deep, resonating sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Why have individual units entered the processing center?" The voice spoke directly into their minds, bypassing their ears entirely. Nari took a deep breath and stepped forward. "We are here to offer you an alternative to consuming inhabited worlds. All organic matter must be processed for the continuation of the collective. But there are uninhabited systems with far more resources," Nari explained. "Gas giant moons rich in minerals, asteroid fields full of rare metals, dead worlds with no defending populations." Dr. Hyjin quickly transmitted star maps showing resource-rich, but lifeless systems. These locations contain more raw materials than 100 inhabited worlds, with no resistance and no energy wasted on combat. The collective consciousness paused, processing this new information, for several minutes. The only sound was the electrical buzzing of millions of interconnected minds thinking as one. Finally, the voice returned. "This proposal has efficiency merit. The collective will accept guidance to optimal resource locations in exchange for avoiding defended territories." Diplomat Nari had just accomplished the impossible. She had negotiated a peace treaty with a force of nature. The Galactic Assembly Hall was the most magnificent building Captain Minho had ever seen. Representatives from over 300 different species filled the massive amphitheater, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors, shapes, and sizes. Some floated in specialized atmosphere bubbles. Others required mechanical suits to survive in the standard environment. And a few were so large they appeared only as holograms. 6 months had passed since the successful negotiation with the Void Hunters, and the galaxy had changed dramatically. The feared destroyers now followed carefully planned routes to uninhabited systems, consuming resources from dead worlds and asteroid fields instead of populated planets. It was the first time in galactic history that anyone had turned an extinction-level threat into a managed resource operation. "Citizens of the galaxy," announced Speaker Keldash, an ancient being whose crystalline form sparkled under the chamber's lights. "Today we formally welcome Earth and humanity into our galactic community." The assembled representatives erupted in various forms of applause, chittering, musical tones, light displays, and sounds Minho couldn't even identify. He stood at the central podium wearing his best dress uniform, feeling both proud and humbled by the moment. Admiral Kextra approached the podium. His feathers now permanently shifted to a bright gold color that indicated deep respect in Valerian culture. 6 months ago, my people contacted Earth because we believed humans were the galaxy's most dangerous predators. We were wrong." The assembly hall fell silent as delegates leaned forward to hear his words. "Humans are not dangerous because they are violent," Kextra continued. "They are valuable because they understand that true strength comes from knowing when not to fight. They taught us that the greatest victory is turning an enemy into an ally." After the formal ceremony, Minho joined his crew at Earth's first off-world military academy. The facility had been built on Deep Space Station Nexus and was already training the first class of interspecies tactical officers. Lieutenant Soyoung stood in the academy's main training hall, watching a group of young aliens practice basic formation movements. The class included tall, graceful Etherian scouts, stocky Dralton engineers, and quick-moving Velmuth communications specialists. "They're getting better," she observed to Major Jamin, who was reviewing training reports on his tablet. "The Etherian cadets are natural scouts," Jamin replied, "and the Dralton are excellent at defensive positions. But they're all still thinking too much like individuals." Dr. Hygen joined them, carrying a cup of coffee, one of Earth's more popular exports to the galaxy. "The psychological profiles are interesting. Most of these species developed past competitive thinking millions of years ago. Teaching them tactical cooperation is like teaching humans to breathe underwater. But they're learning," Soyoung noted. "Yesterday I saw a mixed squad of crystalline and Velmuth cadets execute a perfect flanking maneuver. Through the training hall's large windows, they could see construction crews working on additional academy buildings. Representatives from dozens of species had requested expanded training programs, wanting to learn human tactical thinking not for conquest, but for protection." "Captain," called out Cadet Instructor Hyan-Woo, a former Earth Marine who had volunteered for the interspecies program. "The afternoon class is ready for their first simulation exercise." Minho smiled as he watched alien cadets nervously preparing for their training mission. These young beings came from peaceful civilizations that had never needed to think about warfare. Now they were learning not how to fight, but how to protect others who couldn't protect themselves. "Think they're ready for advanced tactics?" Soyoung asked jokingly. "Let's master basic squad coordination first," Jamin laughed. "I don't want to traumatize them with guerrilla warfare concepts on their first day." Diplomat Nari approached from the Academy's administrative offices, carrying news from Earth. "The UN has approved funding for 5 more training facilities. Applications are coming in from species we've never even heard of." The irony wasn't lost on any of them. The galaxy had reached out to Earth expecting 2 higher monsters, only to discover that humanity's greatest gift was teaching others how to turn conflict into cooperation. The most dangerous species in the galaxy had become its greatest protectors, not through violence, but through wisdom, as the sun set over Deep Space Station Nexus. Captain Minho looked out at the stars and smiled. Humanity had finally found its place among the galaxies, not as conquerors, but as guardians who understood that true strength meant knowing when to fight and when to find a better way.